Captain Doohan stood at the viewing window of Space Station 7, staring at his new command. The Persistence floated in the docking bay, its gray hull showing patches of different colored metals where repairs had been made. He could hear the snickers and whispers of alien crews behind him, but he kept his eyes forward, his back straight. "Captain, all systems check is complete," Engineer Jai-1 called out as she floated through the airlock connecting the ship to the station. Her dark hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her hands were covered in grease. "She's not pretty, but she'll fly." "That heap of metal will fly." A tall, blue-skinned alien stepped forward, his expensive uniform gleaming with technology. The Galactic Council must truly despise humans to give them such primitive vessels. Doohan turned slowly, keeping his face calm. "Every ship flies if you know how to handle it properly." More aliens gathered around, their advanced ships towering over the Persistence in the nearby docks. Their vessels sparkled with force fields and glowed with energy weapons. Next to them, the Persistence looked like a child's toy made from scrap metal. Navigator Hanbin walked up, carrying old-style paper charts under his arm. "Captain, I've plotted our first 3 possible routes." He ignored the laughs from the alien crews at his paper maps. "Paper charts? How quaint." Another alien captain called out. "Don't humans know how to use quantum navigation?" "We know how," Communications Officer Yumai said as she joined her crew. She was the youngest of them all, but her voice was strong. "We also know that paper doesn't crash when you need it most." Doohan turned to face his small crew. The 4 of them stood together as the alien crews continued their mockery. He could see the strength in their eyes, the determination in their stance. The Galactic Council might have restricted humans to basic ships, stripped of advanced technology, but they couldn't strip away human spirit. "The Council's rules are clear," the blue-skinned alien said loudly. "Humans must prove they can handle space travel responsibly. Until then, no advanced ships for your kind." Jai-1 stepped forward, wiping her hands on a rag. "Our kind?" she asked quietly. "Our kind built ships that crossed oceans before we had computers. Our kind reached space using rockets made from basic metals and math. Our kind doesn't need fancy tech to survive." Doohan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Engineer, is our ship ready?" "Yes, Captain. All manual systems checked. Backup systems in place. We can leave whenever you give the word." The station's overhead speakers crackled. "Attention all vessels. Storm approaching Sector 7. All ships advised to delay departure for 12 hours. The alien crews rushed to their ships, activating their advanced shields and protection systems. Doohan watched them for a moment, then turned to his crew. "Hanbin, can you plot us a course around the storm using the old weather charts?" The navigator smiled, patting his paper maps. "Already done, Captain. There's a clear path if we leave now. It's longer, but safer." "Yumai, radio status." "Basic communications working perfectly, Captain. No fancy systems to get fried by the storm." Doohan nodded, looking at each member of his crew. They were ready. They were capable. And most importantly, they understood something the aliens had forgotten. Sometimes the simplest solution was the best solution. "Then let's show them what a bare-bones ship can do. Board the Persistence. We leave in 10 minutes." As they walked to their ship, heads held high, the alien crews watched from behind their force fields. The humans could feel their mocking stares, but it didn't matter. They had something better than advanced technology. They had skill, determination, and most importantly, they had each other. The Persistence might be basic, but its crew was anything but simple. And soon, they would prove it to everyone. 3 days after leaving Space Station 7, the Persistence received news that made its crew gather in the small control room. Yumai sat at her radio station, adjusting the old dial as she listened to the announcement again. "The Deep Space Trading Guild is opening the Spiral route," she said, looking up at her crewmates. "First ship to deliver cargo through the route gets a 10-year exclusive contract." Doohan leaned against the worn metal wall. "Play the full message." The radio crackled, and a formal voice filled the room. "All ships are welcome to compete. Route includes passage through the Broken Stars asteroid field and the Red Storm radiation belt. Cargo must arrive undamaged. No restrictions on ship class or type." "No restrictions." Jai-1 smiled as she tightened a bolt on a control panel. "That means we can enter." Through the front window, they could see two alien ships pass by. The Enkshithal vessel glowed with purple energy shields, while the Verdani ship sparkled with golden sensor arrays. Both ships were heading toward the starting point of the spiral route. "Look at them," Han Bin said from his navigator's chair. "All that fancy tech, and they still follow the same paths their computers tell them to take." The radio crackled again. This time, it was a message from one of the alien ships, warning to all vessels. "Human cargo ship detected in this sector. Recommend keeping distance to avoid accidents from their primitive systems. They're trying to scare everyone away from us," Yumai said, her hands tightening into fists. Doohan walked to the center of the control room. "Navigator, how long to reach the starting point?" Han Bin spread his paper charts on his desk. 6 hours if we take the straight route." But he pointed to a spot on the map. "If we use the small moon's gravity to sling us forward, we can get there in 4. "A slingshot move?" Ji-1 raised her eyebrows. "The big ships won't try that. Their computers say it's too risky." "Plot it," Doohan ordered. "Yumai, keep listening to their chatter." Ji-1, make sure our cargo straps are triple-checked." As the crew worked, they picked up more radio signals. 20 ships had entered the competition. Most were large corporate vessels with the latest technology. The Persistence was the only human ship. "Captain," Yumai called out 2 hours later, "I'm hearing strange things. The Enkshithal ship is reporting system failures. The Verdani vessel just lost sensor control. Someone's attacking their computers," Jai-1 said as she returned from checking the cargo. "Good thing we don't have any fancy systems to hack." Through the window, they watched a sleek alien ship drift past, its lights flickering. Its crew was trying to restart their advanced systems. "All those ships," Han Bin said quietly, "fighting each other with computer viruses and electronic warfare. They forget there are other ways to win." Doohan gathered his crew. "This is our chance. While they battle with technology, we'll focus on the real challenge, the route itself. G1, our engines are simple but strong. Han Bin, your calculations are better than any computer. You may keep tracking their problems. Knowledge is power." The Persistence approached the starting point. Ahead of them, several advanced ships floated with dead systems. Others were still fighting, their electronic warfare lighting up space like a light show. "Look at them," Yumai said. "All that technology, and they're already in trouble." "Ready for the slingshot?" Han Bin asked, his charts marked with careful calculations. Doohan looked at his crew, saw their determined faces, their ready hands on the manual controls. They had trained for this, prepared for this. While other ships relied on computers, they relied on skill and teamwork. "Take us in," he ordered. "Let's show them what a bare-bones ship can really do." The Persistence turned toward the small moon, its simple engines burning steady and strong. The real challenge was about to begin. The Persistence shook as it entered the Broken Stars asteroid field. Through the front window, chunks of rock and ice floated everywhere. Behind them, the advanced ships were struggling with their failing systems. "Main radio is dead," Yumai announced from her station. The impact from a small rock had broken their main antenna. But instead of panicking, she smiled and pulled out a box of colored light sticks from under her desk. "Good thing we practiced our light signals," she said, moving to the window. She flashed a green stick twice, then a red one. At the engine room window, Jai-1 responded with similar flashes. They had created their own simple signal code weeks ago. In the engine room, Jai-1 worked quickly. The Persistence didn't have fancy shield generators, but she had hung thick cargo nets between the outer and inner hull. As rocks hit the nets, they slowed down or bounced off. "Simple physics," she muttered, tightening the nets. "No computer needed." Han Bin sat at his navigator's station, pencil moving fast across paper. He had drawn the paths of the major asteroids, tracking their movements the old way. A ruler, a compass, and years of experience guided his hand. "Captain," he called out, "there's a gap coming up in 30 seconds. It's small, but we can fit." Do-Han gripped the manual steering controls. They felt warm under his hands. "Everyone hold on. This will be close." Through the back window, they could see the alien ships trying different approaches. Some tried to blast the asteroids with energy weapons, but this only created more dangerous pieces. Others waited for their computers to calculate perfect paths, but the numbers kept changing as the rocks moved. The Persistence dove through the asteroid field like a needle through cloth. When rocks came too close, Do-Han turned the ship by feel and experience. Han Bin called out directions using simple words: left, right, up, down. No complex technical terms, just clear commands. Jai-1 had created manual override systems for everything. Levers and pulleys replaced computer controls. When the main power flickered, she and her team pedaled a backup generator they had built from spare parts. "Alien ships are calling for help," Yu-Mai reported, listening through a simple radio she had fixed to her ear. "Their fancy systems are confused by all the rock dust, but our old radar still works fine." An especially large asteroid appeared ahead. The crew watched as 2 alien ships tried to go around it, their computers struggling to plot a course. But Han Bin had seen something they hadn't. "Captain, that big rock is spinning," he said, pointing to his calculations. "It's creating a clear space behind it, like a windbreak. If we time it right." Do-Han understood immediately. Everyone prepare for a close pass. The Persistence tucked in behind the massive asteroid, using its rotation to shield them from other rocks. It was a move no computer would suggest because it looked too dangerous on paper. But the human crew knew better. As they cleared the worst part of the field, the crew allowed themselves small smiles. Behind them, the alien ships were still stuck at the beginning, their advanced technology proving useless against the simple challenge of nature. "You know what's funny?" Jai-1 said as she joined them in the control room, wiping grease from her hands. "They thought giving us basic ships would hold us back, but it just made us better." "That's because they forgot something important," Do-Han replied, finally relaxing his grip on the controls. "Humans didn't start with advanced technology. We built it, step by step. We know how things work from the ground up." Yu-Mai flashed a series of light signals to their engine crew, giving the all clear. "So what's next, Captain?" "Next." Do-Han looked ahead at the glowing red clouds of the radiation storm. "Next, we show them how humans handle bad weather." The Persistence moved forward steadily, its simple systems humming, its crew ready for whatever came next. They had passed the first big test, but they all knew the real challenges were just beginning. The radiation storm was still an hour away when Yu-Mai heard something strange on her radio. She adjusted the dial carefully, listening through her old headphones. "Captain," she called out, her face serious, "I'm picking up weird signals. They don't match any of the racing ships." Do-Han moved to her station. "Pirates." "Yes, they're hiding their messages in old radio bands. The fancy ships can't hear these frequencies anymore. Their computers filter them out as space noise." The crew gathered around the radio. Through the static, they could hear bits of conversation. The pirates were planning to ambush the ships in the radiation storm, where sensors would be nearly useless. "We should warn the other ships," Han Bin said, looking up from his charts. Do-Han nodded, but when Yu-Mai tried to send messages, the alien ships ignored them. They thought it was just more interference from the primitive human vessel. "Look," Jai-1 pointed through the window. Ahead of them, 3 pirate ships appeared from behind a cloud of radiation. Their black hulls were covered with stolen technology. The advanced racing ships, busy fighting the storm with their computers, didn't see the threat until it was too late. The pirates fired electronic pulses. The alien ship's shields flickered and died. Their engines stopped. They hung in space like dead metal while the pirates moved in. "They're disabling their computers," Jai-1 said. "Those ships are helpless without their tech." But the Persistence was different. When the pirates fired their pulses at the human ship, nothing happened. There were no complex systems to disable. "Hard turn," Du-Han ordered. Han Bin had already calculated a path through the radiation clouds, using the storm to hide their movement. The Persistence's simple metal hull couldn't be tracked easily in the radiation. "The pirates didn't expect this," Yu Mai said, listening to their confused chatter. "They don't know how to fight a ship that doesn't depend on computers." The Persistence circled around, staying in the radiation clouds. G1's basic shields, just layers of different metals, blocked enough radiation to keep them safe. Du-Han watched as the pirates started boarding the disabled alien ships. "We can't just watch," he said. "Navigator, plot us a course behind the nearest pirate ship. Engineer, give me full power to the rear cables." Jai-1 smiled as she understood the plan. The Persistence might not have energy weapons, but they had strong metal cables normally used for towing cargo. As they moved silently through the radiation storm, the crew prepared for action. "Now," Du-Han ordered. The Persistence burst from the radiation clouds. Before the pirates could react, Jai-1 launched the cables. They wrapped around the pirate ship's engines. "Pull," she shouted. The Persistence's simple but powerful engines roared. The cables went tight, and the pirate ship's stolen engines ripped away from its hull. The other pirate ships turned to attack, but the Persistence was already gone, disappearing back into the radiation clouds. They could hear the pirates shouting in confusion over the radio. Their fancy sensors couldn't track the simple metal ship through the storm. "Look," Han Bin said quietly. The alien racing ships were starting to drift into the radiation clouds. Without power, they would soon be in real danger. Du-Han looked at his crew. They all knew what had to be done. "Yuma, send them our old mechanical docking codes. G1, prepare the manual towing system. Han Bin, find us a safe path out of this storm." "The pirates are still out there," Yu Mai warned. "Yes," Du-Han agreed. "But they've never faced a ship like ours, or a crew like this one." The Persistence turned back toward the stranded ships. They had a chance to prove that humanity's so-called primitive ways still had value. And maybe, just maybe, they could teach these advanced aliens a thing or two about real space survival. The Persistence moved carefully through the radiation storm, pulling 2 disabled alien ships behind it. Inside these ships, the crews watched in amazement as the human vessel guided them to safety using nothing but metal cables and skill. Another ship sending distress calls. Yu Mai reported from her radio station. "It's the HFY vessel. Their life support is failing." The blue-skinned captain who had mocked them at Space Station 7 was now asking for help. His ship's advanced systems were completely dead. "J1, Du-Han called through the light signals. "Can we handle a third ship?" The engineer flashed back a green light for yes. She had designed a special pulley system that spread the weight of the towed ships. It wasn't fancy, but it worked. The Persistence turned toward the HFY ship. Through the windows, they could see the pirates still searching for them, their sensors confused by the radiation. But Han Bin's paper charts showed safe paths through the storm that no computer could find. "Their air will run out in 20 minutes, Yu Mai said, listening to the desperate calls. Du-Han made a quick decision. "J1, go help them. Show them how to bypass their systems. Yu Mai, guide her with the light signals. Han Bin, keep us steady." Jai-1 put on a simple space suit. No fancy electronics, just solid material and a good air tank. She pushed off from the Persistence, carrying a bag of basic tools. The crew watched as she reached the HFY ship. The alien crew let her in quickly. Minutes later, Yumi's radio crackled with the alien captain's voice. "This is amazing," he said. "Your engineer is fixing our life support with mechanical switches and manual valves. How do you humans know these things?" "Because we remember our history," Du-Han replied. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." Jai-1 spent the next hour moving between the rescued ships. She taught their crews how to run basic systems without computers, how to read air pressure with simple gauges, how to pump air manually if needed. The alien crews learned quickly, their respect for human knowledge growing with each lesson. Pirates approaching from the left. Han Bin warned. 3 black ships appeared from the radiation clouds. But now they were ready. The alien crews, using their new mechanical backup systems, helped the Persistence turn all 4 ships together. G1 had linked their manual controls. When Du-Han turned his ship, the others followed like a giant space snake. The pirates fired their electronic pulses again, but they hit only basic systems and metal cables. Nothing failed, nothing died. The aliens, working their manual controls, felt the kind of direct connection to their ships that they had forgotten about. "They're running away," Yumi announced happily. The pirates, unable to deal with ships they couldn't disable, disappeared back into the radiation storm. When they finally reached clear space, the alien crews gathered in a video call with the Persistence. The blue-skinned Anxithal captain spoke first. "We were wrong about humans," he admitted. "We thought your basic ships made you weak. But you showed us that knowing the simple things, the basic skills, makes you stronger." "Will you still race against us?" Du-Han asked. The alien captain laughed. "Race with you, not against you. But first, we need your engineer to teach us more about these manual systems. We've learned our lesson about relying too much on computers." Jai-1 smiled as she cleaned her tools. Lesson 1. Always have a backup plan that doesn't need power. The crews of all 4 ships laughed together. The radiation storm still raged behind them, and the spiral route still lay ahead. But something had changed. The aliens now looked at the Persistence with respect, not mockery. "Ready to continue?" Du-Han asked his crew. They all nodded. The Persistence might not be the most advanced ship in space, but it had the best crew, and sometimes that was all you needed. The end of the spiral route was marked by a small dwarf star. Its orange light filled the Persistence's front window. Behind them, 3 alien ships followed in close formation, their crews now working together with the humans. "Time check," Du-Han called out. They had lost precious hours rescuing the ships, and other competitors were closing in. Han Bin looked up from his charts. "We're 30 minutes behind schedule. The leading ships will reach the finish line before us if we take the normal route." "What about an abnormal route?" Jai-1 asked, walking into the control room. She pointed at the dwarf star. "That's putting out a lot of heat energy." The alien crews, watching through video links, looked confused. The blue-skinned Anxithal captain spoke up. "Our computers say approaching the star is too dangerous. The gravity will pull us in." "Unless we use the gravity," Han Bin said quietly, already drawing on his charts. "Captain, I can plot us a slingshot course around the star. It's risky, but it could push us ahead of everyone." Du-Han looked at the alien crews on the screen. "Your ships can handle it if you use manual controls. The heat might hurt computers, but simple metal and human skill will get us through." The aliens looked unsure, but they had learned to trust the human crew. One by one, they agreed to follow. "J1, how are our heat shields?" Du-Han asked. The engineer patted the wall proudly. "I lined the hull with the cargo bay insulation. Not pretty, but it will hold." The aliens did the same to their ships. They could see the leading ships far ahead, following the safe route that their computers recommended. But the Persistence and its 3 companions turned toward the dwarf star, ready to try something that no modern ship would attempt. Everyone switched to manual controls, Du-Han ordered. "Computers off. Trust your hands and eyes." The heat grew intense as they approached the star. Sweat dripped down their faces, but nobody complained. Han Bin called out course corrections while Yu Mai used light signals to guide the alien ships. Starting slingshot maneuver, Du Han announced. The Persistence curved around the star, using its gravity like a giant sling. The ship shook hard. Warning lights flashed. But Jai-1's basic systems held together. Through the radio, they could hear the alien crews working their manual controls, following the Persistence's lead. They had learned well from Jai-1's lessons. Look, Yu Mai pointed ahead. The finish line was visible, a space station marking the end of the route, and they were now ahead of the other ships. But the dwarf star wasn't done with them yet. A solar flare erupted, sending waves of energy toward the ships. Hold course, Du Han ordered. While other ships would have to stop and recalibrate their computers, the Persistence and its companions flew on. Their simple systems couldn't be overloaded because they were already running on basic power. Final approach, Han Bin called out. His calculations, done with pencil and paper, had been perfect. The 4 ships shot past the leading vessels like arrows from a bow. The space station grew larger in their windows. The alien crews cheered through the radio. They had learned to fly their ships all over again, the old way, the human way. Station control calling the Persistence, Yu Mai announced. They're asking how we got here so fast. Du Han smiled. Tell them we took the scenic route, and tell them we're not alone. The Persistence led the small fleet toward the finish line. They had raced the spiral route in a way no one had expected, not with fancy technology, but with skill, courage, and simple human ingenuity. We did it, Jai-1 said softly, looking at their companion ships. We showed them a better way. No, Du Han corrected. We showed them an older way. Sometimes moving forward means remembering what worked in the past. The finish line beckoned, and victory was just minutes away. The main hall of Space Station 7 was packed with crews from all over the galaxy. 1 month had passed since the Persistence and its 3 companion ships had finished the spiral route together. Now, the Galactic Council had called a special meeting. Du Han stood with his crew at the front of the hall. Behind them sat the crews of the Anxithal ship and the other 2 alien vessels that had followed them through the dwarf star slingshot. The blue-skinned Anxithal captain nodded respectfully at the humans. The head of the council, a tall figure in silver robes, stepped up to speak. We are here to address the results of the spiral route race. For the first time in our history, 4 ships crossed the finish line together. Murmurs filled the hall. Everyone knew the story by now. How the simple human ship had saved the advanced alien vessels, taught them old skills, and led them to victory. The Trading Guild contract was meant for 1 ship. The council head continued. But these 4 crews have shown us something more valuable than speed. They have shown us the danger of forgetting our basic space skills. Jai-1 sat straight in her chair, her hands still showing grease marks from working on the ship. Han Bin held his paper charts proudly. Yu Mai wore her old radio headphones around her neck, like a badge of honor. The blue-skinned captain stood up to speak. My crew used to think advanced technology made us better space travelers. The humans proved us wrong. When our computers failed, they taught us how to fly without them. When our sensors died, they showed us how to navigate by sight and skill. The humans didn't just win a race, another alien captain added. They made us all better pilots. The council head raised a hand for silence. The Galactic Council admits we were wrong. Restricting humans to basic ships was meant to be a punishment. Instead, it showed us what we were losing by relying too much on computers. Du Han stepped forward when asked to speak. Humans don't hate advanced technology, he said simply. We just believe in understanding the basics first. Every member of my crew knows how things work from the ground up. That's the human way. And that is why, the council had announced, we are changing our rules. The Trading Guild contract will be shared by all 4 ships. Additionally, The restriction on human vessels is lifted with one condition. The hall grew quiet. Doohan waited calmly. We want human crews to teach other species their methods. Every ship in the galaxy should have manual backup systems. Every crew should know how to fly without computers. Will you help us? Jaiwan's eyes lit up at the thought of teaching others about mechanical systems. Han Bin smiled, thinking of sharing his navigation skills. Yumei touched her old radio, remembering how it had saved them. We would be honored, Doohan answered. The ceremony ended with crews from dozens of ships asking the humans for advice. The Persistence crew found themselves surrounded by aliens eager to learn the old ways of space travel. Later, as they walked back to their ship, the crew stopped to look at it. The Persistence's hull still showed its patches and repairs, but now these marks seemed like badges of honor. They're installing manual backup systems on every ship in the fleet, Jaiwan said happily. Simple, strong, and reliable. And navigation classes are full of aliens wanting to learn paper charts, Han Bin added. What do you think, Captain? Yumei asked. Did we change things? Doohan looked at his crew, then at the ships docked around them. In many windows, he could see crews practicing with manual controls and basic systems. We didn't just change things, he said. We made them better. Sometimes the best way forward is to remember what got us here in the first place. The Persistence might not be the fanciest ship in space anymore, but it had become something more important, a symbol of human ingenuity and wisdom. And as its crew prepared for their next mission, they knew they had not just won a race. They had helped create a safer, wiser way of traveling among the stars.